For decades, the history books have tried to soften the jagged edges of Bette Davis, painting her as a misunderstood pioneer who was simply ahead of her time. But if you ask the people who actually had to stand on a set with her, the story is much darker. Bette Davis wasn't just a strong woman. She was a calculated, high-octane engine of arrogance who thrived on making everyone around her feel small. She didn't just demand perfection. She weaponized it to exert a level of control that bordered on the sociopathic. From the moment she stepped onto a soundstage, she operated with the absolute conviction that she was the only person in the room with a brain, treating directors like errand boys and co-stars like obstacles to her own glory. This wasn't artistic integrity. It was a deep-seated, toxic ego that eventually turned the entire industry against her. Her reputation as a monster wasn't a PR mistake. It was an earned title. She was a woman who would look a lighting technician in the eye and humiliate him in front of 100 people just to prove she could. Her arrogance was so thick it was suffocating, and the scandals that followed her through the golden age of Hollywood provide a roadmap of the scorched earth she left behind. One of the most glaring examples of her pure, unadulterated malice was her lifelong crusade against anyone she viewed as a threat, most famously Miriam Hopkins. This wasn't just professional jealousy, it was personal warfare. During the filming of The Old Maid, Bette went out of her way to psychologically torture Hopkins. But the real scandal had happened years prior when Bette allegedly had a brazen affair with Hopkins' husband, director Anatole Litvak. Bette didn't just take the man. She flaunted the conquest, using her Bette Davis eyes to stare down a betrayed wife on her own set. She took a perverse pleasure in the discomfort of others, often turning the workplace into a psychological minefield just to see who would crack first. This man-eater reputation wasn't just gossip. Bette churned through 4 husbands, often treating them with the same cold indifference she showed her directors. Her marriage to Arthur Farnsworth ended in a scandal that still raises eyebrows. He died following a mysterious fall on a Hollywood sidewalk, and while Bette was cleared of any wrongdoing, the whispers about her volatile temper and the accidents that happened in her orbit never truly went away. She was a woman who demanded total submission from her men, and when they didn't provide it, she discarded them with a chilling efficiency that left their lives in ruins. Her later marriage to Gary Merrill was a decade-long explosion of public drunken brawls and mutual resentment, where Bette reportedly used her fame as a blunt instrument to keep him in a state of constant emasculation. The legendary feud with Joan Crawford is often played for laughs today, but on the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, it was a display of genuine physical cruelty. Bette didn't just dislike Joan, she wanted to break her. During a scene where Bette's character was supposed to kick Joan, she didn't pull the punch. She delivered a blow to Crawford's head so violent that it required several stitches. This wasn't an accident. It was an assault disguised as acting. Bette reveled in the pain she caused, later joking about how much she enjoyed the sensation of her foot connecting with Crawford's skull. When Joan retaliated by putting weights in her pockets during a dragging scene, it was a desperate defense against a woman who was actively trying to sabotage her health. Bette's arrogance reached its peak when she was nominated for an Oscar for that film, and Joan wasn't. Bette spent the entire lead-up to the ceremony mocking Crawford's fading beauty and irrelevance, only to be humiliated when Joan walked on stage to accept the award on behalf of the actual winner. Even in defeat, Bette's reaction wasn't one of grace. It was a snarl of pure, unfiltered hatred that shocked the onlookers in the front row. She never forgave the betrayal of the Academy choosing someone else over her, and she carried that bitterness like a poisonous amulet for the rest of her life. This arrogance didn't stop at her peers. She was a social sniper who used her razor-sharp wit to assassinate anyone she deemed unworthy at Hollywood parties. There's a famous story of a young, polite actress saying "good morning" to Bette on a set, only for Bette to respond by screaming, "Go to hell," because she hadn't been properly introduced. She viewed basic human courtesy as a weakness and social etiquette as a tool for the boring. She would arrive at events and intentionally ignore the host, heading straight for the most powerful person in the room and ignoring everyone else as if they were furniture. If you want to know how evil the industry truly thought she was, look no further than the infamous trade ad she took out in Variety in 1962. It was a calculated, arrogant stunt where she essentially begged for work, listing her honors and stating she was still mobile and more affable than rumor would have it. It was a slap in the face to the producers she had spent 30 years belittling. It wasn't an act of humility. It was a dare. She was telling the world, "I'm the best, and you're all too cowardly to hire me." She had burned so many bridges that she had to buy an ad to find a match to light the next one. This arrogance extended into her private life, which was finally exposed in the mid-'80s by her own daughter, Bette Hyman. In the book My Mother's Keeper, Bette didn't describe a strong woman. She described a domestic tyrant who used psychological warfare to keep her family in a state of constant terror. She described a mother who would stage death scenes to get attention, who drank until she became a monster, and who viewed her children as nothing more than props in the Bette Davis show. While her fans tried to claim the book was a lie, those who had seen Bette's behavior on set for decades knew better. They had seen the woman who would scream at a child actor for missing a mark. They knew the woman who would stay in character just to keep the atmosphere on set miserable for everyone else. Bette's obsession with herself was so complete that she even tried to control her own daughter's wedding, turning the ceremony into a stage production where Bette was the lead and the bride was merely an extra. When she didn't get her way, she would resort to the treatment. Weeks of icy silence followed by a volcanic eruption of verbal abuse. She didn't just want to be a star. She wanted to be a deity, and she expected those around her to worship at the altar of her talent regardless of how much blood she drew. She once famously said, "In this business, until you're known as a monster, you're not a star." But the truth is she was a monster long before the stardom ever arrived. She used her talent as a shield to justify her blatant mistreatment of the little people of Hollywood, from the hairstylists she made cry to the script girls she treated like dirt. She was the kind of star who would demand a script be rewritten at 3 a.m. just to ensure she had the last word in every scene. She was a woman who would walk into a party and freeze the room with a single, biting comment directed at a younger actress's dress or weight. Her scandals weren't just mistakes. They were the byproduct of a woman who genuinely believed she was a superior species. Even on her deathbed, she was reportedly still nursing grudges that were 50 years old, refusing to forgive or forget even the smallest slight. When she died, she didn't leave behind a legacy of warmth. She left behind a catalog of brilliant performances and 1,000 stories of people who breathed a sigh of relief when the monster finally left the building.